Hello everyone, and welcome to the first video of a Clangen horse herd challenge. That's right, this herd is 100% based on a playthrough of the game Clangen, which you can find in the description, but everything is changed to be horses. I had many requests for a video like this after I tried this with the dog pack, so I hope you guys are excited. First, I would like to start by saying that this is not gonna be like super realistic. Real horse herds don't really work this way, but this is for entertainment. We can make it however we want. So this herd is set around the same time as Spirit, the movie. Highly recommended if you haven't seen it. So they are living in beautiful Wyoming in the 1800s. They are primarily Mustangs, but there could be an occasional specialty breed pop up here and there if there happen to be any escaped horses or something like that, or kitty pets, as they would be called in Warriors. The herd's major predators include wolves, cougars, and occasionally bears, but the biggest threat to their way of life is humans. People round up horses for use on their farms, in the army, or just for riding. The lead stallion and mare of the herd do their best to lead the horses away from humans, but sometimes they are unavoidable. Also, a little PS, I decided to use any type of naming system for these horses. If I went with only like natural names of things horses would know, like, I don't know, Fern, for example, I would run out of names, and a lot of the names from my other series would start to seep in. So I used more human names, I suppose, but we're just gonna pretend like the horses know what these names are. So without any more delay, let's jump into the leaders of the Grand Teton herd, Artax and Takoda. The leader of this herd will always be a stallion, but he's really there for show, honestly. Artax may be the leader in that he protects his herd from dangers and from other stallions, but the real leader here is Takoda. She is the mare in charge, and she tells the herd where to go, when to eat, and when to sleep. Takoda's job is to be in constant communication with Artax to ensure the safety of the herd. Artax is the typical stallion. He's fearless and intrepid, willing to gallop into a fight if he needs to. If it means keeping his herd safe, he's willing to do anything. Artax is actually a relatively new addition to this herd and is a young leader. The last lead stallion was very old when he died, and Artax joined the herd to be their new leader. Takoda, on the other hand, has been a part of this herd her entire life. The past lead stallion was her father, and she grew up following him. She is a friendly and determined mare. Although she seems like a dominant force, she isn't domineering. Takoda rules her herd with a gentle but firm hand and only ever wants the best for her family. She actually took over this job a couple of months ago when the original lead mare sort of retired. She's getting a little too old to be fighting the battles that Takoda has to fight now. At first, Takoda wasn't convinced by Artax's leadership, and she didn't like him much. He seemed like an arrogant stallion that had made his way into this herd and took over for her father. In Takoda's mind, nobody could live up to her father's legacy. After a year or so of Artax leading the herd, though, Takoda is starting to come around. The two constantly bickered at first, but it was hard to resist the stallion's charm. Artax also found himself pleasantly surprised at how much he had in common with Takoda. They both desperately want to protect this herd, and Artax finds it comforting that he's not alone in this mission. One day, the pair had managed to slip into a deep gorge after a mudslide. It had been raining pretty hard. Artax was uninjured, aside for some scrapes and bruises, but Takoda had a pretty large gash on the inside of one of her legs. Not to mention they were trapped in the gorge. The herd watched helplessly from above while their leaders had to try to find a way out. Takoda, who's usually unshakable, could feel her nerve cracking as she limped around, desperate for a way out. She was losing it, and Artax knew it. He did his best to soothe her nerves and promised he would find a way out. He vowed that he'd always look after her no matter what stupid holes they fell into. One long and painful walk later, the pair had found a ragged cliff face that they were able to climb out of. Safe at last and reunited with the herd, now Takoda and Artax have a deep respect and appreciation for one another. Next is Ophelia and Eve. Ophelia is a beautiful blue roan mare, and she's kind of like Takoda's right-hand mare. She's always there to assist in corralling her herd mates whenever necessary, if there's any dangers. Although she is actually much older than Takoda, Ophelia doesn't have the guts to be a lead mare. Otherwise, she would have taken over for the mare that actually retired. Ophelia is much more of a follower than a leader. She prefers taking orders, actually. She's a very motherly horse and tends to the herd as best as she can. If a mare is giving birth, Ophelia is right there with her at all times. Ophelia has actually given birth herself a few times. A few of her fillies moved on to new herds, and a few other foals didn't make it during the harsh winter times. But she currently has a yearling son now who seems strong, and she's excited, hoping that he will make a great leader someday. The other mother of the herd is Eve, who is much less caring than Ophelia. She's a little bit of a loner and greatly prefers her personal space. She will groom the other horses occasionally, but she just really prefers to be on the outskirts of the group, and she does not mind telling you to go away. If you guys know horses at all, you would say that she's a pretty stereotypical mare, opinionated and sassy. Eve also gave birth about 1.5 years ago to a little filly who is high-strung and opinionated just like her mother. And this filly, or I guess this yearling seriously tests Eve's patience. If you guys noticed, during the sketching phase of Eve and Ophelia, I whipped out my references, and I just wanted to point out that that's basically the easiest way I've found to learn how to do anatomy, if you guys were curious. I will draw the animal to the best of my ability without like copying the reference. Like I'll look at the reference and try to make it look like the reference, but after I've drawn my interpretation of the reference, I will add the reference. How many times can I say reference in a row? I will put the reference underneath the image of what I've drawn and alter the anatomy to make it look right, but also to figure out like, hey, okay, so it's actually legs that I have a really difficult time with, or it's like the way that horses' faces are shaped is what I struggle with as well. And that's a good way to not only see what you struggle with, but also to see how you need to change it, you know? Because if I didn't do that, then I would just have a weird looking horse and I would have no idea how to fix it. So just a little tidbit for you guys. Dynasty was the lead mare of the Grand Teton herd for nearly 2 decades. She is a fierce protector and a strong leader. Although she's quite old now, she hasn't lost her fighting spirit. When predators lurk nearby, many of the horses feel the need to protect the old mare, but Dynasty doesn't need the help. Her kicks are just as strong as they were 20 years ago. Dynasty only decided to step down from being the lead mare when she started to fall behind during gallops. She's not as fast as she used to be, and it was very difficult for her to accept that. Dynasty is the mother to many foals who have all moved on from this herd at this point. Her remaining foal is Swift, who isn't much of a foal anymore. He is a pretty large stallion with a clever mind. He was born in this herd and really should have been the one to take over instead of Artax. However, Swift isn't a very good fighter, so when he challenged the much larger bay stallion, it was an easy victory for Artax. Swift is only slightly bitter about this, but he knows Artax has made a good leader for the herd, so It's okay, but that doesn't stop his jealousy of the other stallion. The other mares often ask Swift why he doesn't leave the herd. His response is usually because he likes it here, but the true answer is that he's worried he wouldn't make it in the wild alone. He's not a good fighter. Also, he'd miss his mom. Swift tends to get along quite well with most of the herd, but he does butt heads a lot with the other stallions. He has admitted defeat to Artax, but he refuses to submit to Sunny, Ophelia's yearling colt. Swift is very aware of appearances in this herd, and he knows just how stupid he'd look if he let this young colt be the boss of him. He doesn't seem to realize that arguing with a yearling is actually what makes him look stupid. The bickering he's done with Sunny has put him on Ophelia's radar. She's a caring, motherly type of mare, but her attitude can sour in an instant if her foals are threatened. She has planted a nice hoof print on Swift on more than one occasion for arguing with her son. When Swift isn't arguing with Sunny, he's prancing around looking for some attention from Takoda. He has a really big crush on her, but with Artax around, the spotted mare doesn't seem to notice Swift at all. He just has to grit his teeth and accept that Artax will always have everything that Swift wants. If you guys are curious at all about how I'm making Clangen work for horses, it's pretty loosely based on Clangen at this point. I'm basically doubling the cat's age in-game because, well, horses can live a lot longer than the cats in this game, and so basically the ages that these horses are is twice as old as their in-game sprites. And that's kind of just one of the things that I'm doing to try to make this more horse-like. I'm also changing some of the personality traits and attributes to be more horse-like. Our final two horses are the yearlings from Eve and Ophelia that I mentioned. This is Rio, Eve's daughter, and Sunny, Ophelia's son. Rio is quite the wild child and is very often getting herself into trouble with the older horses. She loves to buck and play a little too close to Dynasty and Eve. Rio got her name from her personality, which flows fast and strong, just like a river. She's quite talkative and can be incredibly annoying to her herd mates. She has some growing up to do. Her friend, Sunny, is a little more level-headed. He loves to buck and prance just as much as Rio does, but he is a little more aware about when it's appropriate to be silly and when they should be serious. It's pretty funny that these two yearlings actually look like they've swapped names. I didn't intend for it to be this way, but Rio looks much more like a Sunny than Sunny does. However, Ophelia named her son after his father from a different herd. He was a very kind stallion with lots of patience and devotion to his herd, and Ophelia chose the name Sunny, hoping that her foal would be just like his father. Generally, Sunny is quite patient, but as he's grown older, he's become more and more like a stallion. He has entered those oh-so-fun teenage years and can be pretty snappy at times. He tends to argue with Swift about the proper technique for evading wolves or something along those lines. There are always bickering. Rio, on the other hand, was always a menace, and her teenage years have only exasperated her attitude. It seems the only horse that likes her in this herd is Sunny. Rio feels like an outcast, and sometimes it seems like her own mother doesn't even like her. So, Rio's response is to be even more obnoxious. The herd doesn't like her anyway, so what's the point in being on her best behavior? She may as well have some fun if just her presence makes her herd mates miserable. And that's all for the herd so far. If you guys enjoy this, I'd love to continue with their stories and see what kind of horses we can bring to this new herd. And let me know what you guys think though. If you join me for my next video, I'll see you then.